I'm seeing a lot of, number one, a lot of traumatic brain injury cases when there's nothing indicative of one on an MRI. In the old days, when I was younger, and you get your bell rung playing football or something, they call it concussion. So that's been reclassified now to what's called a mild traumatic brain injury. So it just sounds a lot scarier. The old days concussion, yeah, give it a few days. But now they have these mild traumatic brain injuries, and they bring in these neuroradiologists and neuropsychologists, and they say, yeah, he's going to have long-term effects from this mild traumatic brain injury. The reality is the vast majority of patients are 100% better after a short period of time, less than a year.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're joined by Jim Orland, who is the owner of Orland Law Group in El Segundo, California. Welcome to the podcast, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start today with you telling us just a little bit about yourself and what you guys do there at Orland Law Group?
Oh, thank you. So I'm a lifelong Californian, and I went to college back east, but came back for law school here. And I opened up my practice about 20 or so years ago, and we've slowly been growing. We're mainly a defense firm specializing in construction defect litigation, personal injury, business litigation. And we have about 10 attorneys now. And we are a trial firm. I try a lot of cases. I'm a member of the American Board of Trial Advocates. So this year, I think I've had 4 trials this year, jury trials, and I have another one shortly before Christmas. So it'll be a unfortunately Christmas trial possibly. So we're just a heavy litigation firm, and but we have a really nice environment here. I think everyone enjoys working here. So
Awesome. Awesome. So, what are the biggest trends you're seeing in the industry right now?
in I'm doing a lot of trucking cases right now, and I'm seeing a lot of uh, number one, a lot of traumatic brain injury cases when there's nothing indicative of one on an MRI. Um, and in the old days, when I was younger, and you get your bell rung playing football or something, they call it concussion. So that's been reclassified now to what's called a mild traumatic brain injury. So it just sounds a lot scarier. The old days concussion, yeah, give it a few days or you get better. But now they have these mild traumatic brain injuries, and they bring in these neuroradiologists and neuropsychologists, and they say, yeah, he's going to have long-term effects from this mild traumatic brain injury. The reality is the vast majority of patients are 100% better after a short period of time, less than a year. So we're seeing a lot more of the traumatic brain injury cases. We're also seeing a lot of cases where the plaintiff has some sort of injury. A lot of times I'm seeing them in low impact collisions, and they try. Some of them don't treat for months, and then a lawyer gets a hold of them. They'll refer them out to their lien doctors, meaning they don't have to pay them unless there's a recovery. And they're charging hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they operate on these individuals, and they then go to trial, and they present to the jury with $1 million of past and hundreds of thousands, if not more, dollars of medical bills for the future, when it's really not indicated that they were candidates for surgery in the first place. So I'm seeing a lot of that. They're having what's called an ACDF surgery, and it's basically a neck fusion surgery. And they're also doing these spinal cord stimulators, and they're very, very expensive. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to build up the medical costs to try to increase the value of the case. And I think it's a really bad trend. And in fact, certain jurisdictions are fighting back. Tesla recently filed a civil RICO case against a few prominent law firms here in the greater Los Angeles area, along with one of those treating doctors who does the surgeries on these people on a lien basis. So, and I'm hearing the same things happening in Texas and Florida and other jurisdictions around the country. That this is the playbook we're seeing, but people are fighting back with these lawsuits.
That's kind of scary. Wow.
Yeah, and I feel bad for these plaintiffs who, a lot of pretty much all of us are going to have some sort of degenerative disc disease just based on our age and living life. So a lot of them, have all these, maybe some disc bulges or herniations, and then they get in these low speed impacts, and the claim is that it was either exacerbated or it was aggravated or it's a brand new injury, and they just immediately eventually cut on these people, and that's, to me, that's a shame, because now they're going to have problems the rest of their life. They have, many of them are going to have hardware installed in their bodies which will have to be removed at some point, and it's really, I think it's sort of a disgrace to our industry that this is happening.
Hey, so who are your clients specifically? I
um,
guess truckers.
yeah, a lot so right now we're getting a lot of various trucking companies, tow truck companies, a lot of businesses, with premise liability cases where people, are slipping and tripping and falling and having these huge lawsuits. Where everything now is a demand for the policy from the insurance company, whether it's 300,000, 500,000, a million. It seems that whatever the policy is, they're demanding it, and they're doing it early. And if the policies aren't met, many times they'll try the case. And the reason they do that is the their goal is to, if it's a severe injury, most times that'll get paid. And but what they're hoping is they win big at trial, and they basically open up the policy to more than the million, for example, and then they try to collect either by a bad faith claim against the insurance company. So that's kind of what the goal is on these cases. But the post COVID world, the first few years, I think you saw more conservative verdicts, and then I think there was a lot of I don't know, anger towards corporations and corporate entities, and you start to see some very big, what we call nuclear verdicts, all around the country. That trend oscillates, between jurisdiction, but I think there's a playbook out there, and we're seeing a lot of these um, injury cases being either settling or verdicts for a lot more than they used to be, let's say 10 years ago.
Okay, so tell me, are you using AI at all to do any of the things you do there at Orland Law Group?
Absolutely. I think it's an invaluable tool, and I think any lawyer out there that's not using AI, they're hurting themselves in their practice. And there's a lot of things you can use it for. I've been actually delving a lot into AI lately, and I think the first thing is it's the type of AI system you use. The typical OpenAI or ChatGPT, I'm sure a lot of people are using that. That is an open system, meaning, it's out there for the entire universe of people using it. The data is shared by everybody out there, and it's learning from data that people put in. That is dangerous, I think, for a number of reasons. I think there's some ethical reasons. There's potentially some, attorney-client issues, putting your client's information out there, and it could, versus a closed system, which is integrated in, and it's learning from its own data, not from outside sources. So, just for there's so many different ones out there, by the way. So I'd urge people to, search the one that's best. There's Most lawyers and law students are aware of LexisNexis, for example. Not to plug them, but they have an AI program now, which is a closed system, and the the thing with that I like is there's less chance of a hallucination. So what we've seen with the OpenAI programs, there's a lot of hallucinations, meaning the AI is making up cases, and sometimes you just say, "Are you sure?" And they'll say, "Oh, hold on, let me check." And oh, sorry. I mean, they make mistakes. In fact, a number of lawyers have been sanctioned by judges for giving fake, made up law in law and motion work. So the first thing I'd caution is don't overly rely on it, but you can use it as a great tool. For example, you can take thousands of medical records, plug it in there, and have it summarize them for you, and highlight certain, uh, let's say, injuries or certain information you want to access by page, and then you can just go to that page and review it. I mean, I don't think it replaces an attorney's. What attorneys should always, review everything for themselves. And any product that you get from AI, you need to verify that it's accurate. But it's definitely helpful. I'll just give you an example that I'm playing with now. Um, on the LexisNexis AI, you can type in an expert that the opposing side is designated, and it will tell you how many times they've been challenged, how many times they've been disqualified at trial, whether it's mainly in federal court. It'll provide you with deposition transcripts from other cases. So then you can see, how it tells you how many times they're retained or testify at trial for a plaintiff versus a defendant. So you can get a lot of really good information. I mean, that's just one example that can really help, I think, any practice, any size practice, especially smaller firms. I think if you're like a solo practitioner, I think you have to be using it.
It's amazing what it can do.
You just have to be careful. And the most important thing, I think, is to give it good prompts.
Right.
Very detailed prompts. I consider it kind of like a first-year lawyer who doesn't really know that much. And I sit them down and say, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I'd like you to do. I want you to find out, A, B, C, and D. Here's where you can look. This is so you give them an assignment. Then you get their assignment back and you review it. You review it yourself. You make revisions, you change it, and you get it out, whatever the project is or product. So I kind of treat it like that. So you have to be very detailed. You kind of figure that they don't really know anything at that point. Is the more detail, the better.
So, what have been the biggest challenges in growing the business over the past 12 months?
I would say the biggest challenge has been finding talent, is being able to hire good lawyers and staff. That's been by far the biggest challenge. And I've spoken with a lot of other, managing partners at other firms in this area, and they're having, not only in California and Los Angeles, but all across the U.S. I'm part of an organization of attorneys throughout the country, and we get together a few times a year. We do seminars and mock trials and mock mediations for clients, and they're all having the exact same issue.
If time and money were not a constraint, what is one big problem that you would solve just immediately with your business?
Well, hire hire more people.
Hiring.
It seems that everyone's very busy right now, which is a good thing. This is the busiest I've ever been in 30 years of practice, and my colleagues around the country are sharing the same thing. I think claims are up right now. More cases are going to trial. We're almost over the backlog. We had a backlog from the COVID years where cases just weren't getting out. And there's some of those are still being tried. There's cases going to trial now that are 5+ years old, and so it's taken a long time. And I just had a case set for trial last week for February of 2028. That's insane. You have to wait 2.5 years to get a trial date, the first trial date, and most trials get continued at least once, if not more. But I would fix having the resource to hire more attorneys and more staff. So I think that would be it. And what we're seeing is, so I'm a smaller firm, and some of the big firms obviously can pay more money. People, a lot of the people coming up, they want to work less, they want to make more money. So, either we're having to overpay for good candidates than we would even 2 years ago. I'm just not seeing, people that really want to work hard like I did when I was a young lawyer.
So I know for a few years now, ADA compliance and website accessibility has kind of been a hot topic. How are you guys approaching that?
Well, we have sort of a company that does our human resources, and so you know, obviously they offer training sessions, and in California, for example, for the lawyers, there's mandatory, I think sexual harassment training and other type of workforce environment training. So I think we have to do that once a year, and they provide that. Or there's third parties that provide all that training. So I guess the first thing is you have to be compliant with the laws. California has laws as to workforce compliance. So we listen. We take the classes, and we do it that way, and then um, and there's obviously various labor code issues that we're become apprised of, and we need to be aware of. For example, we have to ensure that um, every employee takes their mandatory rest breaks, their mandatory lunches, make sure we're complying with all the labor laws as well.
So, what are your plans for 2026?
Well, hopefully not trying 6 cases, but we plan to continue our growth. We actually opened up a second office a few months ago in Orange County, and we have room to add attorneys and staff there. We still have room in our office here to add attorneys and staff. So the plan is to grow slowly, but not panic, and not do a panicked hire for something that's not going to fit our culture here.
Right. Well, for the people listening who want to check you guys out, they want to check out Orland Law Group, where can they go to find you?
We have a website. I think it's www.orlandlawgroup.com, and all our staff, our attorneys, I believe are on there, and some of our recent successes. So that's probably the best way. You can also email us at jim@orlandlawgroup.com. That's my email. And yeah, we have a digital presence out there, so we do get a lot of leads and clients that find us, and although most of our business is from referrals and repeat business, but we do have a lot of new clients that find us from our website.
All right. Well, that's about our time. I want to thank
Hey,
you, Jim, for joining us today. I'll make sure to add some links to the description. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.